Councilor. All right, and AI is helping out. All right, again, where were we? Any discussion, any rewrites, anything with the minutes that needs to be changed? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are accepted unanimously. Love it. Officer Winkle and guests.
I'll go first. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy New Year. I'll go first and introduce your new district commander that I'm super excited. We were in the academy together and she's my boss, so I love it. But all's well, we're ramping up starting our spring events with the community. Of course, if you don't know me, I'm Sergeant Eddie Garcia. I am with the North District Community Squad. Basically, just long story short, all we do is create the positive engagement between the police department, specifically the North District officers, and the community that we have in our district, especially with the youth, at-risk youth. We go to events like this, community events, HOA events, anything and everything that is required of us, or anyone that wants us to speak to the community, we're here for it. So that's just long story short, that's what we do. I want to introduce Captain Lockhart. She is our new captain, as anyone, if everyone doesn't know, former captain, now Major Manukas, has been promoted, so he's moved up, and now Captain Lockhart is here, so I want to introduce her to the Midtown CAC. So welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm Rene Lockhart, new commander of the North District. I've been with Raleigh the Raleigh Police Department for 22 years now. I actually was a sergeant in the North District, back in my sergeant days. So yeah, super excited to be the commander of the North District. Look forward to providing you all with whatever information you need. But I will say that you guys have some rock stars here. So Sergeant Garcia and Officer Winkle are awesome. I don't know if y'all know how good y'all have it with them, but they're excellent officers, and you should be happy to have them. So I've done a lot within RPD, and some folks can probably speak to the work I've done. I am very community oriented. I actually started when Acorns first got up and running. I was the supervisor actually that helped to start Acorns as the sergeant and then the lieutenant. So I'm also a police instructor. I teach police. My degree is in social work. I also teach social workers at NC State. So just a little bit about me. So yeah, I think that's all I have. Legal will update y'all on the stats and everything. So
You go by captain or commander?
it's Captain Lockhart, yes, but I'm Rene.
Never got away with calling her Rene in the academy.
Yeah, I was a training officer out in the academy.
So if you look at the crime statistics, they've based on the last 60 days, just because that's been how long since we've seen each other. If you look at it, it's very consistent. We're averaging about 1,300 calls for service in your CAC per 30-day period, and we're right around 200 incident reports based off of those crime calls for service. Motor vehicle crashes. Please be patient out there. Don't get into road rage. Don't follow too closely. Encourage your young drivers to give at least 3 seconds of space. Be mindful of what's around you. We do have civilian crash investigators. There's 8 positions. There are 5 current open positions. So if you know anybody looking for a job, those civilian crash, they really help us out. The month of August, which was their first full month, they took 240 crashes. So that frees us up tremendously to answer calls. So if you know anybody, please let them know, crash investigators. And then a lot of them move on to law enforcement. So definitely can use those. Traffic stops, you know, we're very active with traffic stops in this area, 277. relatively high for the size of your CAC. And that's just based off of the North District crime stats. So you have a little bit of Southwest and a little bit Northeast in here. So that number could be up a little bit. Larcenies, you have a lot of retail here, so you have a number of larceny reports going up. Larceny for motor vehicles. We've made, as a city, we've made a huge push to please be mindful of locking your car doors. At 46, that's really high. Please encourage your neighbors to check your locks at 9 o'clock. You know, we've talked about what comes out of these cars: computers, laptops, wallets, those wreak havoc on, you know, identity theft, but a lot of people are leaving unsecured firearms in their vehicles. So please encourage yourselves, your neighbors, to lock car doors and be extra diligent with your firearms if you choose to carry some. So I heard a great phrase last month, hey, let's go. It's kind of broken down to heads up, eyes open, code yellow. So if you think of yellow, if you approach a yellow light, you're always scanning. So always be scanning. Don't look for something that's strange. Look for something that you normally don't see. So if you pull up to a gas station and you see somebody standing at a gas pump but no car around them, that's something that should kind of pique your interest and be mindful of. Unless you're from New Jersey, you know. They're the last full service station. But, you know, let's go, you know, lock your car doors, engine, don't leave it running unattended, or if you're in a parking lot, let it roll, so keep it running. So you have to put it in gear and go. So that's the T, put it transmission. And then the go, get organized. You know, when you're in your vehicle, be organized with what you have. We just talked about your laptops, your firearms, and everything that's in your vehicle. Get that organized, keep it in the bag, keep it organized. So when you're ready to leave your vehicle, you can go. And then just be on your way. So if y'all can just remember, hey, let's go when you're in your vehicle, that can definitely help us out. So with that, I will open it up to any type of questions you may have of what's going on with the department.
I've got a couple.
Go ahead.
The North Hills incident, while being very unfortunate, and you guys did a great job of responding to it, cutting off traffic, make sure that you can limit interferences. I wanted to ask about notification. At one time after Hedingham, there was a pilot notification system. I don't know anything ever came of that. I was wondering if there is some kind of alert that perhaps could have went out to residents that we would have known to just avoid the area and stay out of the area. Can you address that a little bit?
That I would have to get an answer from our PIO's office. I can say just from the radio traffic, it was pretty much all hands on deck. And if you saw an overhead picture of what was going on in North Hills, I just don't think we had the ability at that moment to release that information that quickly. At one point, we thought the person was roaming around North Hills, the shopping center.
So I was on Falls of News when the all hands went out, I guess. And I had one police car, in fact, come from the far lane of the road I was on, cut right across and make the right-hand turn. And that's when I realized that something was up. It was not normal traffic that day. But it would have been nice if we even have some type of system to send out like the schools do. If an incident like that occurs, to just say, this is the incident, just stay away.
I will check with the PIO's office. As soon as I get an answer for that, I'll either email it or I'll give you guys an update at the next CAC meeting.
Great.
And I think that's a great idea. The thing we have to think about, like Officer Winkle said, it happens, it's the prime spot, right, in the city where headquarters is 2 miles up the road. And everything, it's right between the Southwest District, North District, Northeast. So when you're having that incident occur and you have the cavalry, right, rushing, yeah, maybe the notification might be not being thought about when there's such what we thought was an active shooter incident going on, trying to save lives. We lost two, unfortunately, So in a moment like that, it's easy to say it would be nice to be known, but we're trying to save lives, right? Compared to the Renaissance situation back in the Southwest when the officer was injured, by the way, update, he's getting better, he's recovering, long road to recovery, but he's stable, I guess we can say. An alert did go out, right, to that area, and people got text messages, people got the notifications on their Facebook. I don't know how many people here follow RPD on Facebook and Instagram, but if you don't, you should, because a lot of notifications come out there too. And if you have your notifications turned on, you will get the alert that you're looking for. And that happened for that incident. So, you know, it's every instance different, every response is different. The fact that we're going in there and the most horrific things are happening, you know, it's been a bad start, right, to the year in terms of just citywide, right, with, you know, things that are happening, but, you know, there's always room for improvement. And the fact that you can say, hey, I didn't get a notification, maybe it's geographical, maybe it's in the area, you're in Falls News, this happened in North Hills, you're far.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with you at that point, you're nowhere near it, so maybe you're not gonna get it. If anyone near that's here that lives near North Hills, if you do, did you get a notification on your phone, or if there's no one not lived near or was near there at the time?
I live, just up the road here, Millbrook and Falls, but, I mean, so yeah, 2 miles.
Yeah.
2 mile and a half.
Yeah.
We usually know there's something going on, we have a half a dozen helicopters in the air.
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah,
So I guess I'm not close enough.
that's not close enough.
Yeah, I just wanted to add into this, if you want to, you can go to our YouTube page and look at the city council work session from, and I forget the date, but we had an emergency crisis communication discussion where we had this topic. There are 2 different systems. One is Wake County, and so that's when you hear the Amber alerts, and that's controlled by the county. They did let us know there were some alerts that you could sign up for, and I don't remember if it was Ready Wake, I don't remember the name of the website, but go to that council meeting, that work session meeting, and you'll hear exactly where you can sign up for alerts like that, because they geofence, meaning that they just hyper focus an area that is in danger, and they do send alerts out, but you do have to sign up for them. So if you'll go to that work session online. Yeah.
I think it was last Tuesday.
So the point is that all the proposals that were made after Henningham, probably that system never came to being.
I can get it from a council perspective. I haven't asked that question, so I will definitely ask. That was not asked at the work session, but I'm sure I can get you an answer
I
as
mean,
well.
there's so many systems out there, Evergreen, one of I know of.
Yeah.
Just-
I know that area around there is, Kane property, and I wanna say that they might have alerted the folks that live right there
They
at
probably
North Hills in that area, about everything, so, yeah.
Okay,
Well, I appreciate your response.
Yeah.
It was
you definitely,
large.
It was a lot.
yeah, you definitely had it covered.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving right along tonight, we may actually get out of here early. That never happens. I guess Tiesha, somehow, gonna bring you up and let you present. I apologize for that, because normally I can hook it up.
It's all right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. How are y'all doing?
Good.
All right.
I'm getting over germs, so I'm gonna have to present with my mask on, okay? But I'm not here alone. My name is Tiesha Mosley. I am with the Department of Community Engagement. I have my entire leadership team with me here in the back. So I won't be talking the whole time, which is also good for me getting over the germs. So Dan Bagley is here with me. Nadia Moretta is in the back, and Anitra Wiggins is also here. And so you will be hearing from all of them, okay? What do I need to do?
What I need to do, probably let you share.
One moment, please, so we can figure out, let's just, yeah, there we go, that was correct. I was Okay, go.
That's not like it. Oh, can I do it from here? Yeah. I can see it, it's up on the screen. Should be.
I was just trying to, stand it. Okay. I'm not going into presentation mode.
I'm sorry, it's because it's my monitor.
Oh, okay. Well, we can try it
to
this
do
way.
that on
It's up to
mine?
you, Larry.
You should be able to do it from here. If you want my try it from here, that's what I do. When I get stuff,
It's
that
not,
didn't work either.
it's not letting me,
Sure. That works, right?
but they can see it this
Yep,
that works,
way,
yeah.
then we can just.
Yeah, it's easier.
Huh.
My hell was that? Okay, I'm gonna close the chapters.
That's not you, that's nothing.
Oh, there you go.
We're good.
All right. Try this again. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Tiesha Mosley with the Department of Community Engagement. And so we'll be before you just a little bit. We're still working on it. To talk about a couple things. We'll talk about the city's commitment to community engagement over the years. We'll talk about a new merger. So our department actually is 27 days old. We took the office, the city of Raleigh took the Office of Community Engagement, our Neighborhood Enrichment Division, and merged them to become a department. And then we will talk briefly about the services that the department currently provides to CACs, with 2 CACs, which is the reservation of specific community centers. So we'll talk about that today. And also this.
I mean, I got a question on.
Oh, I'm sure you do, Larry. Okay, so we'll do it this way. All right, so although our department is only 27 days old, the city of Raleigh started with the Community Services Department in the early 90s. And then it grew, it went from the Community Services Department, and then we went to the Housing and Neighborhoods Department, where the Community Engagement Division lived, and it included those programs that you see on the screen. And then the name changed again, and some of the responsibilities shifted to the Neighborhood Enrichment Services Division. And around that, in that same window of time, in 2021, actually is when the Community Engagement Office was formed, and that's when I started working with the city in 2021. And then, like I said earlier, about 27 days ago, the department formed. And so we'll show you what that looks like here in a moment. And so what do we do as a department? We foster strong connections. We promote civic participation. We amplify underrepresented voices, and we support local leadership. It was your screen. Thank you. The division.
Who are those people? They're not here. No.
Good job.
Excuse me, the department has 5 divisions, which we'll talk about in our slides. We have over 18 different programs and initiatives that we do. We have 20 full-time employees, we're a team of 20. And then we have 13 part-time employees as well, and 4 fellows. That photo over there, although the chairs date the photo a little bit, that's actually just from last year. At our annual Neighborhood and Engagement Expo.
Okay. No, my son's in the picture, I don't know. Sure, there he is.
We did not.
I gotta take a picture. He's not gonna believe me. I didn't know he did stuff like that.
Well, there you go. Here's what it looks like from as an org chart perspective. So at the top is the department director, which is myself. We then have 2 division managers, which you'll hear from Nadia and Dan, and then our senior fiscal analyst, Anitra. Dan is the division manager for neighborhood services and youth services. Nadia supports community partnerships and organizational development. And then Anitra handles all of our business and admin services. All right, now I'm gonna stop talking. Turn it over to Dan. He's gonna go over the divisions that he supports.
Thank you.
This is not working.
Oh, it's not, all right.
Oh, did I not turn it on?
Hey, we'll turn it on, see if it works.
Maybe, that's right.
We'll find out.
But it's not.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? Wonderful. So I first have to start by saying this is kind of really cool to be out here. My kids went to Douglas Elementary, just around the corner. I have triplets. They're awesome. And then I have to acknowledge Bev in the back because she's one of our close family friends. And we both live in Brentwood. So it's great to see you here tonight, Bev. So as Tiesha mentioned, I'm Dan Bagley and I'm the division manager for the youth services and the neighborhood services. Let's see if this works.
It wasn't on, my bad.
So, yeah, some of the programs that we have, I just wanted to highlight a couple, and one of them being our Raleigh Summer Youth Employment Program, which is for the ages of 15 to 18-year-old. Anybody here have any kids go through the Raleigh Summer Youth Employment Program? Basically, it's just a wonderful program where we try to give the kids their first job or possibly their second job with the city, teach them all the wonderful skills and trainings, and ultimately, hopefully they come back and they work for us full time. But we do that with 3 different pathways. We have our traditional pathway, which about half of the kids do, and that's just, they're either working with Parks and Recreation or Human Resources, or they're literally out there in person working with different members of the city. Our hybrid is for more of our entrepreneurial type kids. It's an 8-week program, really cool. They work with different businesses throughout the city. And in the end, what they do is this pitch with these businesses and they try to help solve a problem that the business was having. So it's business, students coming together, really cool. And then our virtual pathway, which is somewhat similar, we have the students work on an app, and we work with actually 3 major groups. Anybody want to venture a guess at who these employment folks are? They're pretty cool.
SAS has who you want to vote.
You know what? That's a great idea. Maybe we're gonna go check out SAS. UNC Health is one, Bank of America is one, and the one that's really cool, neat factor, is NASCAR. And then at the end of the 8 weeks, they go and they present these apps that they have designed to these companies. And it's a lot of fun. And the kids just learn so much through this process. But yeah, so that's our Raleigh Summer Youth Employment. Then we have our, for a little bit older, our 17 to 25-year-olds, we have our fellowship program. Tiesha had mentioned we have 3 of the fellowship partners in our department right now. But what it is a pipeline for these folks who have just graduated or graduated from college or might be seniors in college. And happy to say that we just had our first cohort this last year. 89% of the folks who went through our fellowship program are now full-time employed, most of them with the city of Raleigh. This is a pipeline that works and something that the city has really needed for a long time. And then we also have our community climate interns. It's very similar to the Pathways to Public Service Fellows, but this one is more green oriented, working with our sustainability office. And I'm happy to say just this past week, we had one of our climate interns just get on full-time with the city, and he is an engineering specialist. So again, it's a cool program that seems to be working. And then we have our digital inclusion unit. And this is a really cool program because what we're trying to do is help bridge the digital divide. There's this gap. There's a lot of folks who just don't know how to use technology very well, or you're right, yeah, I know, it's all right. It's all right. But what's really great is we have this program where we take computers out, we set them up, we show people how to use them. And this is all being done by 14 to 18-year-olds. And then you have our digital ambassadors. Once you graduate from being a digital connector, we do 2 cohorts in a year at 15 per cohort. Once you graduate, you become a digital ambassador, but you have to apply to become a digital ambassador. You know, we want the kids to have that sense of, you know, they're working for it. And once you become an ambassador,
Then we have this cool program called Advice About Your Device. And we have currently been doing these over at the Pathway Center downtown. But you come in, you have a problem with your phone, you don't know how to do something, you don't know how to talk to text or send an email. They will sit down with you, the youth, and teach you how to do these things. And we spend on average 1.5 hours with each resident that comes in with a youth. It's just a super cool program. You can see in the picture right there of the program working. Now, neighborhood services. Who in here has been in Citizens Leadership Academy? Only one? Thanks, Christina. So this is a really cool program. It's a 9-week program that we do twice a year, and it's Engagement 101. It's Citizen 101. And we have 3 main focuses in the leadership development skills, communication dynamics, and asset-based community development. And that's taking the strengths that you all have and building from there. This is one of those programs that it doesn't matter how old you are, you take this program, you meet people, you will make friends, and you will come out with a network of people that you can call on anytime to help you out within the city. And then these folks become ambassadors to our programs and to the city, and they talk about the programs. We are currently accepting applications until February 15th. We're already about 17 out of 25 full, so if you are interested, we'd love to have you. And we had 19 students graduate in the fall of this class of 2004. And then we have a Raleigh neighborhood registry. Who knows about the registry? Okay, we got a few more hands popping up here. Thank you. So this was established, 23 years ago, 01, 02. And this was just to get residents more involved in their neighborhoods, to get people outside, talking with people and doing programs. We have over 300, actually we have over 350 neighborhoods now. I just checked today, I should have changed that, my bad, sorry, Tiesha. And this year alone, we've already had 14 registered neighborhoods. Now, why would you, I'm not even looking at my notes. Why would you want to become a registered neighborhood? Well, it enables you, one, to bring your neighborhoods together, your people together in a uniform area. You get rentals for free. 1 per quarter. You can go to any community center and they will provide space for you. We have rental equipment, and we have cotton candy machines, popcorn machines, movie systems, speakers that you can use within your neighborhood to have parties, to have get-togethers, to have projects that you want to do with everyone. And we provide it all for free. You just have to be registered within the city. And why do we do that? Because we want to have a conduit between you and the city. We want to have an open dialogue, and this is one of the ways that we do that. And then last, we're going to talk about our neighborhood funds. Once you become a registered neighborhood, you get funds as well. We will help pay for your events. You want to do a National Night Out celebration, and it's going to cost $800? No problem. We'll help you out. Now, we have limited funding. This is something we might want to look at again a little more in the future, but we are there to help make your programs, your neighborhoods more successful. Now, what's cool about the $250 fund, which is a type 1 fund, you don't have to be a registered neighborhood. Any neighborhood in the city can do that. And we do that because, one, it's kind of that carrot. It's like, hey, this is cool, isn't it? Why don't we get you registered? And then you have the opportunity to get even up to $1,000. Plus the rentals, plus the equipment rentals. Yeah, so that is basically the gist of it. Does anyone have any questions about neighborhood services or the youth services? Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, okay, the neighborhood services, all right, so you register your neighborhood. I guess that's because North Hills is more like a geographical neighborhood,
Sure.
right? Like Hickory Hills, that's more the actual neighborhood.
Sure.
Am I understanding? Is that correct? Is that accurate?
So I'm glad you brought that up. So we don't decide what your geographical area is. You get to decide that. So for instance, Brentwood is actually 3 neighborhoods that were built over time.
Yeah.
Now, we registered it as the Brentwood Neighborhood Association. But it could have just as easily been 3 different Brentwood, what, Bev, do you remember the names back in the day? Brentwood Tomorrow or?
Today,
Brentwood Today. So.
Pine Knoll, I think was the other, was Pine Knoll the other one?
Pine Knoll was the last one, I think. So point being, if you wanted to do one huge swath, great. If you wanted to chop it up to half of a neighborhood, great. It's up to you. You know what your neighborhood is.
But they can't overlap.
But they can't overlap. They can't overlap. And if you feel like there is a registered neighborhood that you feel, you know what, that's really more our neighborhood, you can have that conversation with the chair of that registered neighborhood and say, hey, you care if we take this little sliver? It's not a problem. We've done it before.
There are chairs of the neighborhoods?
There is leadership. So to become part of the registry, you actually have to have a chair. You know, we have to have someone that we're talking back and forth with.
For us locally, the garden club that's given a couple of presentations,
Right.
they are a registered neighborhood group. I don't know if the swim club is,
The swim club is not.
neighborhood safety, whatever, community watch, I guess they were called, but they were,
Okay. But yeah,
because I don't know who's currently.
so and if you want, so there is a map on the website and you can go and see where pick your geographical area and see if it's registered or not. Super simple. Or contact me and we'll walk you through it.
And does the funding include adult beverages?
No. What a great question. No, unfortunately. And the one thing I will say, there is a caveat, when you're using the equipment rental and such, you can't charge people at an event. So if you're like, you can't make the popcorn 25 cents because you guys have already paid for it. It's already the tax money. Yeah.
Can you go over at Raleigh Neighborhood College? 'Cause I know we talked about Citizens Leadership Academy, but is that still you guys neighborhood services?
Well, actually, it's coming up shortly.
Then I'm gonna shut my mouth. Thank you.
No problem. All right. With that, we'll move on to business services.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anitra Wiggins, and my title is Senior Fiscal Analyst. I manage the new Business Services Division of the Community Engagement Department. I warn you, my presentation is not as exciting as Dan's, and we don't have adult beverages, but there's this stuff here. So what is business services? We are a service unit of the Community Engagement Department. And our job basically is to ensure transparent financial management, which in essence is providing clear and accurate information to our team as well as the residents and stakeholders, all while being good stewards of taxpayer and city dollars. We optimize resource allocations for programs directly impacting community well-being, making sure resource utilization aligns with the goals and objectives of the city as well as the department's business plan. We oversee the financial, operational, and grant management processes that support a diverse portfolio of community engagement-centered services, making sure that all the day-to-day business functions of the department are carried out efficiently and effectively. And then, of course, we provide support to programs and initiatives, and that just means from time to time, we get our hands a little dirty and we get out there and we participate in different events and initiatives that are being run by our partners within the department. A few key points. I don't want to bore y'all. I had about 15 slides initially, but I don't think we all want to talk about the money piece that much, but I won't bore you. Budget and fiscal management. We provide oversight as it relates to the department budget. We watch the money. Monitoring fund balances and transfers. From time to time, some funds need to be moved around for various programs and initiatives brought forth to us from City Council or the community. Processing payments and financial transactions. That's a daily thing, making sure that our vendors are being paid, in a timely manner, and monitoring contracts, which is fun. And then we also have a list of community and neighborhood funds that our team, we manage. And you'll hear some of these over and over tonight. Neighborhood initiative funds, volunteer Raleigh funds, neighborhood arts funds, neighborhood climate action funds, and neighborhood enrichment funds. Lots of funds.
Can community, like with these funds that
Yes.
the neighborhood services have, can the community apply for some of these funds, or how these funds dispersed or dispensed?
Absolutely. Typically, there's an application process, as Dan mentioned. Some require that you register your neighborhood. Volunteer Raleigh funds, it's more for nonprofit organizations to help them recognize their volunteer base. Neighborhood Arts Fund is another one that Dan has, and that's application based. So most of these, and you can find them on our website, most of these are application based. And of course, only available to City of Raleigh residents and neighborhoods.
Do these groups have to be validated in any way, or nonprofits, or?
It depends on which fund you're speaking of. Some of the funds, as Dan stated, you have to register your neighborhood. Some funds require that you are a 501c3. So there are parameters around how we're
So it's a
giving
mixed
those
answer
funds out.
depending which one you're shooting for.
Absolutely, yeah. And then finally, grants management. You can't see the top, but it's there. Thank you. And then, of course, with grants management, we're managing the awarded grant funds for all of these wonderful grants, ensuring compliance with grant guidelines as well as city, state, local guidelines, and all of that. Financial reporting to the grantor, and of course, as you probably know, with any grant funding, there's some reporting involved. Sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's quarterly, sometimes it's biannually. We are responsible for that. And then processing payments and financial transactions for these grants. And just overall making sure that, again,
We don't get in trouble.
that we stay out of trouble. That is the biggie, right? So some of the grants that we manage are the Foster Grandparent Program grant, which is one of my favorites. Youth Employment Grant, Digital Champions Grant, which is a state grant, Summer Job Connect Grant, Digital Connectors ARPA grant, and then Host Home ARPA grant. Any questions on grants management?
And ARPA stands for American Rescue
Plan Act, and they're federal funds.
I have a question about the previous slide with respect to
Sure.
your budget.
Yes.
Are you guys budgeting right now? Is the city of Raleigh doing budgeting right now?
Absolutely, we are.
And how long does that process normally take? How many months?
It started, okay, I'm new, so Councilmember Jones
Right,
correct me,
sure.
it started in the fall, but we have to have an adopted budget by early June. Ideally, it has to be done by June 30th, but people get nervous if it gets close to June. So the process is underway now. It'll become more visible at the council around March, where we start having our workshops. So you need an adopted budget by June 30, but usually it's 3 weeks before that.
Okay, thank you. And then, is there a representative here tonight from Parks and Rec specifically?
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions about that?
I had a question about the grants, because as of last, just for the public's understanding, the ARPA funds had to be allocated by December of last year, meaning we had to put it into these buckets, and they have to be spent by the end of this year. So those two grants will not be ongoing after December of this year, the last two, the ARPA grant ones. I just want to make sure I'm correct.
That is correct. And with some of our ARPA grants, you're correct. Any funds that were not obligated by December of last year, which means there's a purchase order, it's earmarked for something specific, which means it's probably, there's a contract or something of that nature. Those funds are still there for us to utilize through the end of this year. And then all of the remaining funds were reallocated to use in other initiatives. Any other questions about the money? Sure.
I have a question. With the block party fund, which is what I'm calling it.
Yes.
Is that, what's the reserve, like, how does that look in reserve? Is the money just sitting there? Is it as it's applied for because it's in the lower denomination that you just go, oh, let's just get it from over here real quick? Or is it just sitting there? And if it is, how under or overutilized is it?
So I can answer part of that question. So this particular fund has its own account code. It has its own line item that is approved with the budget every fiscal year. And there is currently $20,000 every year allocated for this purpose.
That's a party.
Okay, and then as far as utilization of it,
Yeah, so it is starting to, it's becoming more popular as you gain more neighborhoods. $20,000 doesn't go as far as you would want it to go. So, but currently we have never not been able to fund an event.
so like, I mean, could we just have like one hell of a party? Like, is the money just sitting there?
No, it's capped.
It's up to 1,500.
Yeah, it had a cap,
Well, sure, but I mean like.
so no big
but
party, no
We
alcohol.
can totally coordinate all of the neighborhoods at the same time. You know, like, so not necessarily one, I understand not one neighborhood can drain it, but
Right.
I guess really what I'm getting at is that money just sitting somewhere? And then what is the pot up to today that's just sitting there?
Yeah, I don't think we have the number for today, but we can pull it.
Right.
And I think the more neighborhoods that want to have a non-alcoholic party.
Of course,
the better. So, I mean, to Dan, I'm sorry, I'm sitting here talking, to Dan's point, we've never been unable to fund something. So I wouldn't say that it's underutilized, but if it's something that your neighborhood's interested in, or your neighborhood and 10 others, now's the time to get the application.
Oh, I'm creating a neighborhood.
Yeah. All right, we got 2 more sections and then we're gonna wrap up. Okay, go ahead, Nadia.
All right, community partnerships. Can I have that? Sure can. Hey, y'all.
Alright,
How are y'all?
alright.
My name is Nadia Retta. I am one of the division managers for the community partnerships as well as the organizational development divisions for the community engagement department. That was a mouthful. I have been with the city since October last year, so a little over a year now. But I was raised in Raleigh. My family is actually immigrants to this country, but I'm first generation Raleigh raised. Really excited to have this job and connect with community, you know, in the place that I grew up. So it's really great. So I'm just here to kind of give y'all a little bit of an overview as to like what our division does. And if you have any questions or need anything from me or want me to follow up on something, just let me know. But this is really your opportunity to just kind of get educated on the services and programs and initiatives that we're leading. All right, so for community partnerships, just a little bit of an overview on like our division and what we focus on. We're all about making connections, right? Building bridges and creating opportunities to build folks' capacity, but also educate them on volunteer opportunities and other cultural initiatives and innovative outreach methods. We also encourage civic participation. So I know you mentioned Raleigh Neighborhood College. That falls under community partnerships. And so these are just a quick kind of skim through of our programs and initiatives. We have our Community Connectors program, and so these are actually up here, these 5 photos up there are our community connectors. So they've helped us kind of connect with community and, you know, have, you know, those relationships, kind of 2-way communication with residents. They've helped us with the BRT project that's happening right now in the Newburgh corridor. They've also helped us with our DMV project. I'm not sure if you guys all know where the former DMV headquarters used to be, but the city of Raleigh purchased that last summer. And so we're just using them to connect us with the community, but also giving them an opportunity to help the city as well, connect with residents. So we're really excited about that program. We also have our Raleigh Engagement Network. If you guys are not familiar with what the Engagement Network is, it's basically an opportunity for grassroots organizations, community groups, student groups, folks who have interest-based kind of meetings or, you know, get-togethers to join our engagement network and get connected. Very similar to the Raleigh Neighborhood Registry, right? To get connected to free meeting spaces, or if they need connections to departments or programs or things that are happening within the city, they can join this network, and then they're able to get that liaison or someone who they can meet and talk to face or over the phone or Teams, to get connected to city resources and learn how to navigate this growing city. And so with our engagement network, folks who join the engagement network also get access to our engagement vehicle, which is great. I say that with a caveat. They cannot drive the vehicle, but they can request that we come. So I will show you guys a quick, I was hoping it was next, engagement vehicle. It's right here. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the other slide, but I did want to give you a visual because I'm a visual person. So we are actually getting a new engagement vehicle, which we're really excited about. This is our first draft. We actually opened a survey up and asked community members to vote on their favorite design. And community members actually chose a Raleigh native local artist. And basically this van will go around, it has been going around, we have an older version right now that goes around the community, and is basically like a mobile city hall. So we do table events, we go to community events, we go to you know, the 4th of July fireworks, and we set up a tent and we have a table and we give away swag and we share, you know, engagement opportunities with residents. We also have iPads, and anytime, you know, people want to see, oh, I have a question about XYZ, okay, we can show them directly, okay, well, this is how you navigate our website, and this is how you take, you know, a survey or get connected to resources. So it's a really great opportunity to meet people where they are, right? We know that sometimes people can't always attend the CAC meeting, right? They might have to work at night, or they might not have childcare. So this is really an opportunity for us to meet people halfway and connect with them and increase the opportunity to engage with residents. So I'm going to go back to the previous slide because I know I missed this. Raleigh Neighborhood College is another one under community partnerships. It's basically free classes offered to residents. There are usually 2 cohorts in a year, so in the spring and the fall. So our spring cohort is about to start up in February. Applications are still online, so anytime you guys are interested, if this intrigues you, go on our website, Raleigh Neighborhood College, just put that in the search engine and you'll go straight to the page and you'll be able to submit an application. But this program specifically has free classes where you can learn about city departments, right? So every class, a department comes up, or 1 or 2 departments comes up and shares a little bit more about what they do and how to navigate their services, their programs, their initiatives, and the things that they offer residents. So it's a great class. My husband actually did it, which is awesome, before I was hired to work with the city, which was great. So he kind of gave me the scoop during my interview process. Also, we have Volunteer Raleigh. That's another program that connects community members to nonprofits, community organizations. We typically partner with local nonprofits and city departments who have volunteer opportunities and connect them to residents who are interested in volunteering their time. We also have Hispanic Latino initiatives. And that just does it. Spanish-speaking residents basically get the resources and connections that they need to navigate our city. All right, I'm gonna go to the second one right here, Engage Raleigh. How many of you actually went to the expo this past year? Okay, we have a couple. So yes, this is a yearly conference that we, I think last year was our first time. But we actually, before our merge with Neighborhood Enrichment Services, we, or they, and now us, were having, this conference called the Neighborhood Expo, or Neighborhood Exchange Expo. And so we kind of combined forces, knowing that, you know, eventually we have a lot of similarities in the things that we do in our mission and, you know, what we're trying to accomplish in the city. And so we joined forces, and last year was our first Engage Raleigh Community and Neighborhood Expo. So we're hoping to have another one this fall. And basically it's just an opportunity for residents to come together, learn about different departments, community organizations, resources, and build community. A lot of the, you know, workshops and the things that we offer, and even, you know, the speaker, keynote speaker, we actually had a podcast recording during last year's expo, which was awesome, and Dan led it. If you have not heard Big Ideas podcast, definitely recommend it. That's also one of the things I feel like you probably didn't even mention that yet. But it's just another great opportunity. There's usually a lot of different episodes, and just, you know, there's so much information out there, right? So it's good to just kind of have that engaging dialogue and learn a little bit more about the things happening in the city. And then I don't need to mention this, but we have our foster grandparent program, which is aimed at seniors age 55 plus. And they basically get connected to a child and support them, mentor them, and guide them in their life experience. All right, any questions about community partnerships? I feel like I talked a lot, but yes, go ahead.
Now, you 2 slides back, you have Volunteer Raleigh, and I'm curious to understand if that is a part of your group and it liaises with Parks and Recs volunteer group, or are they 2 separate, or are they one?
Yeah, I will say I inherited that it used to belong to Dan, so he might be able to answer a little bit better than I would.
Yeah, so we do liaison with Parks and Recreation with their, Mary Owen with their department. But then we also have a group of roughly 60 different organizations that if someone fills out the application, we will try to match them up with another organization that they're interested in. We usually give them like 5 choices, because not all organizations need volunteers at the same time. So we give them a choice, like, hey, here are the 5 who are kind of looking for folks right now. Does any of this interest you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions about community partnerships?
How are you? I've been following the community engagement since its inception, I guess, in 21. And how are you integrating all the different, I mean, there's so much that everybody does. But how are you?
It looks like Tiesha might have the answer. It was not easy, I'll say that.
It's not easy at all, but it's been a beautiful process. And I think the easiest thing was that there were just so many similarities in what the Office of Community Engagement did, what Neighborhood Enrichment offered. And so when we actually first sat down and put it all together, it was 35 different initiatives and programs. So we had to have a lot of heartfelt conversations about, you know, is this program still effective? Is it still meeting the purpose of which it was intended? Is this something that can live under something else? So to answer your question, we're integrating just fine. There was a lot of work leading up to January 1st to just make sure that it made sense for the individuals who had to lead the different programs and initiatives, for our staff, and then most importantly for the community. So I think I said at the beginning, we have 18 plus. I think tonight they're only talking about like 10. So there's a lot of different things that we do, and it's working just fine. But thank you for asking.
Great, yeah. Sounds like a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot to put together.
Awesome, well, I appreciate that acknowledgement.
Yeah.
All right, so moving forward to organizational development, which is another division that, I help manage. Just a little bit of an overview of what exactly we do. So this is the gist of it. We just help strengthen the, both internal city operations and external community engagement. So a lot of times, you know, folks from different departments or even our own department get assigned a project or a program where we are already leading something and we want to find ways to improve it, right? So our office, oh my God, I gotta get used to it. Our division assists folks with, you know, staff with training, providing guidance, strategic planning. A lot of times people want to rely on us to kind of think through and brainstorm how to provide X, Y, Z, or how can I get this feedback that I'm looking for? How can we meet people halfway? Or I'm experiencing this and I want to make sure I acknowledge it and build relationship with my community. So that I can, you know, provide the services that they're requesting or that I can meet a need or whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. And so it's really fun. That's my favorite part of my work, is being able to ensure that our residents have a voice in the projects and initiatives and the programs that we offer them, so that they also have buy-in and are empowered to use their voices and, you know, participate in democracy, right? And so we really just make sure, or we work to ensure that Raleigh operates inclusively, equitably, and effectively. I think a lot of our staff, especially under just our department in general, brings a different lens in the way that we look at community engagement. You know, a lot of us are Raleigh natives. Some of us have studied, you know, social change and social impact, evidence-informed, evidence-based programming, et cetera. So we bring a plethora of experience and knowledge and lived experience as well to the work that we do. So it's really exciting to be able to just kind of brainstorm with folks and say, hey, maybe we can do a workshop or an open house or have a listening session or use our community engagement band. So that's really what this division focuses on. It's just engagement planning, but also we support our community engagement board. So we have one person in our organizational development division who's a liaison. His name is Dale Neal. And our community engagement board basically works to promote radical inclusion, trust, and transparency in community engagement efforts. And they do meet every second Wednesday from 4:30 to 6:30. And Councilmember Jones is a council member liaison for that board. So if you're ever interested in volunteering your time and being part of a really great initiative or a board, you're more than welcome to look on our website and see all the boards and commissions and committees that we have for the city. Applications are always open, and they do get reviewed on, you know, a pretty frequent basis. But we also support our liaisons. So what I mean by that is there are over 20 boards that our office or department supports. And so I think there's like 30 plus boards and commissions, but of that, we support 20. And so we provide training. We help with standardizing processes. Because we're in touch with so many different boards and commissions, we're able to see, okay, well, what's the best practice? You know, what are most boards doing? What can I suggest this liaison, which is typically a staff member who's assigned to a board to assist that board. So like Larry does here, you know, leading it and heading it. If he was considered a city staff member, that would be considered a liaison. And so we provide all sorts of support that they need, one-on-one training, coaching, consultation. All right, and then I mentioned this when I was first introducing organizational development, but we do provide support and training. So, we're currently building, training for departments based off needs basis, but we're also trying to find ways to kind of automize it and have recordings. And we do have, different platforms available that we can use to house all of that. But we have also been part of a lot of really good engagement planning. Have you guys heard of our alternative response program called CARES?
Yeah.
Awesome, great. So yeah, we were a part of that. I was out there giving out gift cards and talking to people all over Raleigh. And so was our team. But we also have been helping with the former TFB site project, our strategic plan, and as well as the next comprehensive plan. So anytime you have questions about engagement or ideas, suggestions, things that we can do better, I'm your girl. All right, any questions before I pass it over about organizational development? No? Cool. All right, thank you. Oh, yes.
I want to couch this the right way. I'm very impressed by the amount of engagement, and coming in new, it seems that there is so much. It seems overwhelming to the point where there's public meeting fatigue. How do you parse through that and find that balance? Because on any given day, you want to get engaged, but there's here's another process, another engagement, another survey, another engagement, another, to a point where, I don't want people to say this is too much.
Yeah.
How do you find that right balance? Yeah. Because you, as a department and as a council, you don't want to limit engagement, but then you don't want to overwhelm people with so much engagement that they start to pull away. So I'm just trying to find out, how do you find that balance? Because just being new and looking at the site, immediately right now, I can literally spend 2 or 3 nights a week of my time just going to meetings. So how do you strike that balance?
That's a great question, Councilor Resilver. So I'll start, Nadia, feel free to add anything. A couple things to take into consideration, and a lot of it is housed in organizational development. So every department, believe it or not, does not work with us when they do their engagement plan. And that's okay. That's all right. Some departments are like geniuses and they don't need us. So that stuff I can't speak to. But when the departments do come to us at the beginning or the middle, sometimes the end of their project, it's important for the engagement plan, a part of our process is to ask them, who are you trying to reach? How do you reach them and where do you reach them? Because if there's if we're doing an initiative that tends to focus on youth, you don't need to go put it in the News and Observer, respectfully, right? Like they're typically not going to be there. So we're very intentional about who they're trying to reach, how they reach them and where they reach them, and we give them outreach suggestions based off of that. We're also really big on offline engagement. So while the city does have public input, like you can see every single survey, the city started that like around COVID as like the response to get public participation. But we're always teaching departments that you don't always need an online survey. Believe it or not, let's talk about what you're asking the public. Are you asking them for something, information or feedback, that can actually change a decision? And if you're not, you probably don't need a public survey about this thing. So the engagement planning that Nadia's team does is how we make the distinction between people getting fatigue and not getting fatigue. And I said at the beginning that every department does not work with us. We honestly don't have the capacity. Her division has 2 people, organizational development. So if every department came to us, we couldn't take it, but that's where we start. You wanna add anything to that?
Yeah, and we're trying to find ways to, like I mentioned earlier, creating trainings and community engagement 101, kind of deeper dive into, different concepts of community engagement so that folks are all on the same page and that we don't have to do it all in regards to like, if there is a situation where every single department now says, okay, now I know community engagement's the one to reach out to when we wanna reach out to XYZ community, because of the networks they have or their methodologies, et cetera. So, our office was in existence for 3 years and now we're in a department, so we're still working on things. Trying to find ways to be more efficient and sustainable, and also, you know, not overdo capacity.
And then the last thing I'll add to that point is relationship building helps us a lot, so word of mouth, people or, you know, departments tell us, you can't quantify word of mouth, and you can't, it's so important. Like, I had someone today who was at a, what's the, like the sweepstakes, like the little kid, like neighborhood sweepstakes. And there was a flyer for one of our projects. And they were like, I saw this because I was playing the fish table and somebody told me, you know, and they were like, so how do I get involved? So we did happen to have a flyer at the sweepstakes, but they had a conversation at the fish table about the DMV site, right? Those are things that there is an online survey, but those types of things make a difference too, because they tell their neighbor and they tell their neighbor, the person actually is the grandmother of one of our DMV site project members. So those types of relationships help make a difference.
Yeah, and I will just say, even with all these opportunities, we still have underrepresented populations in our engagement efforts. So our office and I'm sorry for saying that.
It's okay.
I gotta get used to it. Our department and our division really focuses on those underrepresented voices and making sure that the opportunities that we're creating and the engagement that we're seeking also creates opportunities for these folks who are often underrepresented in the engagement efforts that we've done historically as a city. So it's really exciting work. And thank you.
All right. And last but certainly not least, another initiative that we have under the department is community center reservations for CACs. It's a 3-step process, so any CAC can just complete the reservation request form, which is online. That's a link, but because of time, I won't go through it. Our department staff works with the Parks Department and we coordinate the logistics, all right? So we handle all the, what time, how much time you need for setup, breakdown, do you need a projector, et cetera, et cetera. And then our department reaches back out to the CAC to say your meeting is confirmed. And on that reservation request form, it shows you all the centers that are available for use. We do ask that we get at least 2 weeks in advance before the request comes in and just give staff 3 to 4 days to get you a confirmation. I can only think of like 2 instances where maybe that window wasn't met. And so with their Lance, actually that's changed. Somebody else in the department handles that now, but they do a really good job. And then we do ask that CACs refrain from contacting the community center directly because that causes confusion about what's available and what's not. And then it makes it more difficult for our department to track that, to get it back to council or the manager's office, whoever may be asking, like, is this process working? If y'all are going straight to the community center, then we don't have that information. All right. Any questions? That's the end of our presentation. Yes, sir. No, I was looking at the slide.
Just a small comments on the last topic that you covered.
Yep.
I have asked that you modify the form that we make our reservations on for more than one date. I kind of cheat on the form where it says alternatives. I always put down 3 different dates so I can plan for 3 months at a time rather than having to go back to you each month and make.
Yeah, that's actually not something on us that, us working with leadership in the Parks Department, that was per their request, but we can have another conversation. It wasn't you. It was the assistant director in the department is, I can't think of her title right now. Nevertheless, I can have a conversation with them again later, but that wasn't it.
Well, do I need to contact somebody to make that request?
No, I can have another conversation with them, but I'm just saying I can't make that decision, but I can have a conversation with them about it.
And the other point I was gonna raise, as CACs try to come back, we had 2 instances so far, one in particular that the area that they're in the community center that's assigned to them was not convenient.
Mhm.
So we're looking for a way to get more flexibility, if you will, to add to the list. I guess that's something that we need to resolve through council to add to your list.
Yeah, so the list right now, so CACs, folks that are part of the Raleigh Neighborhood Registry are the only groups that get the number of free community center meeting spaces that they do. There are currently, don't tell me, I think there's like 18 community centers that are available. And that is based upon programming, summer camp, staff availability, et cetera, et cetera. So if the 18 centers are not convenient for any particular CAC, then that's a conversation that our CAC should be having with their CAC liaison, Councilmember Jones, for her to have that conversation amongst her colleagues. So we make the 18 available, so like, you know, the men of Southeast Raleigh, for example, if they're not a CAC or a member of the engagement network, they don't get 18 community centers available for free 12 times a year. So we're doing our best.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to add on to that, as we spoke, when we developed this this portion of it, what we can bring back, it was in partnership with our Parks and Rec department. So I just want to make sure that we're emphasizing that the reason that we don't have every single CAC that we did before is by advice from them. So there's an element that we have to trust our staff to say, I understand that CACs may have been able to meet at JC Park every time beforehand, but no longer is that possible due to these constraints that have been referenced. So when there's a push and pull of, oh, we want this center, please understand that there's a lot of research that goes into deciding what can and can't happen. So the answer, just because we want it, may still be no. If we want Lake Lynn, but Lake Lynn is not available, there's nothing that anything council can do to make that available. So as we bring this back and as we go back to hopefully bring CACs to the recognition that they were at once, we're not there yet. So I need you as my CAC friends to understand that partnership is being built and we are building that foundation to grow it, but we're not at full capacity yet. So just work with me. I understand it's slow, but that's a big concern that I hear repeatedly. So I will say as many times as I need to, but this is in partnership with our Parks Department, and we do need to trust their judgment as well.
And based on what we've all discussed here, what's the limitation of per year of the number of requests that you can make? Is it once a month or is it 12 within the year?
For CACs, and this is where I get, the request was for 12. Now, a lot of CACs take 2 months off. They take July and they take a December month off. So at one point we had requested 10. So I think we extended it to 12, but I want to confirm, is it 12 or is it 10?
We'll double check, I believe it. Yeah, we'll double check for you.
We'll double check, but it started off as 10. We did say that, I did speak with leadership, the team that I've been working with for since last April, to say that, I just lost the question. Did you remember the question? I'm so sorry.
The number that we
The
can
number, because I knew that, having served as the chair for 3 years, I know that CACs either meet every other month or take 2 months off. If we could compromise at 10 per year instead of the 12. So that's where I think we ended, but if it is 12, they'll correct me, but I'm pretty sure it's
10.
It is 10, yeah. And that was the reason, was because they took months off, so.
What was the answer to that?
10.
It's 10. Yeah.
We
It's
could ask-
10,
we could
and that's
ask
per
for 12.
year.
And that was the compromise, like I said, the compromise was
Correct.
going to 10 because we take 2 months off.
We'll revisit that.
I would just like to say 2 things. One, kudos for the TV or the,
That's Kevin, that's our new Linda, that's Kevin.
That's great, that's a great way to introduce yourself. Bring it down, widescreen TV.
Kevin, Linda.
It is staying, that's a common picture here.
Before this, I've been doing this since Patrick Martin was running it, and we sit around a table, we talk, and we don't have slides, and now we have a TV, a giant projector TV. Thank you. And 2, I would like to, we've got 2 counselors here, and I had some I'd love to hear what happened at the retreat.
I was gonna use that as a.
Before we do that,
Okay, I'm sorry.
Can I just say something to Tiesha and her team?
yeah, that's what I wanna do as well, so.
I shared with Tiesha, so as a consultant, I both do public engagement, teach public engagement, design systems, and I have to say, I'm impressed
Oh, thank you.
by you and your entire team. I will resist as much as possible not to butt in. I know you and I said we may need to talk.
Yeah.
But I'm very impressed.
Oh, thank you.
I'm typically hired for the most controversial, political, angry situations they send me, which I kind of thrive in.
Your
Don't have it on camera, you know, so,
Based
but,
on the origin.
so I guess it's the New York thing, we just
Yeah.
thrive on confrontation. So I just want to say, I'm very impressed, I watched a lot, and both you and Dan and Nadia, a lot of things that I was listening for, you said without knowing, which lets me know you know what you're doing. So I just want to thank you and your team.
Thank you so much.
I will, and I'm sure my colleague here, on the margin will make some suggestions. I think at
Sure.
the council table, there were 3 words, which you and I can have a sidebar
Sure.
about what I kind of deconstruct those words because we use them so liberally. But in general, I just want to say that I'm very impressed. And my whole point about, you know, and I'm leaving on Wednesday to do public engagement in Annapolis for a very cool park project. So I just want to commend you and, you know, along the way, I will give you constructive advice, but for the time being, I don't think you have any. And you're right on target with surveys.
Thank you.
Surveys tend to give you choices versus having direct dialogue where you really get a lot deeper in the conversation. So surveys give you a choice.
Correct.
Versus actually getting to know a person, hearing them, so they feel heard
Right.
versus responding. So I just want to commend you and your team.
Well, thank you so much. It's absolutely a team effort. The team is freaking amazing. Could not do this without them. I want to thank council, city manager for putting us together as one. You just don't understand how much more simplistic it makes the things in the background and things accessible for the public. So thank you.
My only question, this is not for you, but you've kind of set a bar. And so as you're engaging other departments, I don't know, I don't like templates because I know Parks Department had to go through that, but tips for them because you don't want to go to one agency and see one approach, then go to another agency. You kind of raised the bar of the expectation of how to engage the public.
Yeah.
And we don't want one department coming in and saying, wait a minute, we experienced this feeling of welcoming at one meeting, and this one just feels like, you know, because I'll just say this, I went to one meeting, it was a public meeting, staff spoke for 25 minutes and gave the public 5 minutes to speak. To me, that's not engagement, that's listening.
Yeah.
And so one experience I had in the past year was, to me, you cannot present for 25 minutes, have the public speak for 5 and call that engagement.
Absolutely.
To me, it needs to be, you speak for 10, you open it up, you know, you have 20%, the public gets 80%,
Yeah.
and it was the reverse.
Well, I'll just say, we're
And I'll just
trying
leave it
to
at that.
grow Nadia's team.
All right, you have my
To support
support.
more departments. We
You have
just
my
need a
support.
couple more people. But thank you.
And I just wanted to say that thanks to Tiesha, it's January, and I knew you guys had merged, if you will, but there were no details provided. I don't know how you're gonna get everything that you showed tonight out to the public. I encourage you to do that. It helped me a lot. I mean, I'm a CAC sitting on the outside looking in, and in the future, I'm hoping that somehow we'll bridge what CACs do and what community engagement does. And we have a lot of things in common. You guys offer a lot of things that we could utilize. Training is one. Technical training especially. As you see, we're using a mouse. It wasn't until a week ago I finally utilized the mouse and found out how to use the mouse properly. And hopefully it'll come out right. So just thank you very much. And Loretta, right? Was it Loretta? Anitra, I was close, I guess, but thank you to every one of you, and if you could either send me or leave me the presentation, that would be great, and then we will send that out, we send out the comments on the meeting that we had tonight, we usually post a video, and then we post out the minutes, I did a presentation that you made tonight. So, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, for everybody's benefit, we've got a couple of things. Christina is now officially our CAC liaison.
Yeah.
So at least now we have an established link between the RCAC and CACs back to council. And Christina, I know you have other things you'd like to tell us tonight, but can you address that right at the top?
Sure. I don't know where you want me to look.
Does anybody need the presentation, by the way, from community engagement? They're available.
We have printouts.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to just give you a brief history of how we got here. So CACs being dismantled in 2020, going for years without having any engagement, which was frustrating.
Yeah, go.
They wanna mute.
We got started on council a year ago, almost in February. We were able to reinstate with 3 goals. The first goal was to open these spaces, the limited menu of community centers that we just acknowledged. That was our first goal. Our second goal was to hopefully pay for a Zoom subscription, and I'll talk about that in a second, why that fell off the radar. And the last one was to use those 2 classes. One was Citizens Leadership Academy, the other one was Raleigh Neighborhood College. How do we use that to help teach people about the opportunities that CACs present? That's ongoing. So those initiatives were met or were reached. We did not move forward with the Zoom link because the Zoom partnership, because the city does not own that. It would be CACs, which are an independent organization, and things like Zoom bombing, which has happened actually at 2 of our CACs, and it's very, very uncomfortable when you have, whether that's racist comments or pornography that has been displayed. The city can't take ownership of that, so we can't be part of that. And for those reasons, we could not pay for that 700. The other reason was because CACs are a grassroots organization of the moment, and they do not have a financial capacity to accept that payment. So even if we could, I could not give the $300 over for them to actually take that money. So for those reasons, we eliminated that second request. And I've been meeting with CAC leadership since April of last year, in which we talked about all of these. Do you want to be part of neighborhood enrichment? Do you want to be your own 501c3? Do you want to partner with other 501c3s in order to grow? And what we landed on was saying, you know what, let's start from the beginning, because we're really, as much as we want to be where we were, we don't have the infrastructure as the organization of CACs to do all of these things. So let's start with the liaison role. That liaison role would give leadership of our CAC, so the governing body of the CACs, direct contact with council so that they can do things like start their survey. And if you guys have not filled out that survey, I don't know if it's still open, but it's your way of telling us, this is the laundry list of things that we would like to see, whether that's access on the website or whatever else, community analyst support, things like that. And we can, as the RCAC, can rank them as what is the most important to the entirety of the organization. And then they talked to me about that. I talked to council. What was happening in that middle year is that you had different chairs from different CACs contacting different councilors with different requests. And that's overwhelming. That's overwhelming because we don't have the budget for it all. So we needed a way to streamline. The reason we're streamlining it this way is so that we begin to help put the pieces back together, but also respect the CACs want to be autonomous. They did not want to be part of the engagement network. They wanted not as many restrictions and rules, and I totally respect and understand that. But with that path, that avenue that they chose, it's going to take us a little bit longer to get to where we once were. That is not going to happen overnight. All of this takes budget cycles. So we're having this conversation. I'm meeting with the chair, Robert Rice. And as those surveys come back and the CACs begin to put that list together of what they want as a collective, not as individual CACs want this and want that, but as the collective, now I can bring that back to council and say, hey, here are the requests. Let's see what we can do and possibly fit into the budget for next year so we can fund things, but we needed a way to streamline that communication. So this is what we have, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
A couple things. RCAC has done the survey. Results are all in, all been tabulated. It's available to you anytime. I thought somebody sent it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Midtown CAC, just so you guys know, I know I implored you several times to do the survey. We had more survey responses from Midtown CAC than any other CAC. So you ought to be proud of yourself. And that input is gonna shape what I hope in the near future is gonna help us get back to where we wanna be. I'm very optimistic. I thought we could get it done by January. I was too optimistic. But I'm looking towards, I'm hoping March, we get it all resolved and moved out. We wasted a lot of time last year. Everything is in place now. We've got a mayor who has an immediate goal of 100 days. We should be able to bring it home. We've done our part.
I will caution you on that to say, when we say funding wise, all of that funding was allocated last year. What we are working in, the budget cycle we are working in was approved last June. So unless we allocate funding to get your March goal, we're not gonna get that because the funding was not allocated. So I need you guys to understand
We
that.
can talk about that
And-
separately, because I've got a way that we can't do it.
Okay, so I'm telling you that that is not possible. We need to be able to say for CACs, if we want that in the next year's budget, starting July 1st of this year, this is our time to get it into for requests. But please do not think that between now and June, that anything can happen financially and fiscally with CACs, because that is, I'm telling you straight up, is not possible at this moment. And I've been very clear with that, but I don't know how that gets misconstrued, because that's not true.
Well, while community engagement is here tonight, they have an excellent process that they use for neighborhoods and grants, where actually they do all of the paying. The neighborhood groups only build the bills, submit the bills to them. We never touch money. It's all handled from within community engagement. And that's the approach we'd like to get to, so
But
that.
that's not the approach that when I spoke to leadership, and this is the disconnect, because when in leadership, when I'm talking to your chair, your vice chair, and Dr. Ling, who's on it. When we have that request and discussions, those were not part of it. So this is why that streamlining is so important. These wants and wishes that you want, that each of the individual CACs want, need to go through your leadership. And that's the conversation we have, so that we don't have these confusing back and forth of what can and cannot happen. It has to be clearly communicated, and that's what this structure is for. So that is my role as the liaison, but you had a question, I'm
I
sorry.
have a question, and I'd really like to take the conversation from politics to environmental. And as a world citizen, I'd like to bring up the fact that we really need to embrace climate change. And with Raleigh in the last 4 years, have had serious support of this neighborhood to remove invasives. And it was the City of Raleigh Parks and Rec's mandate that if you want to be involved in Parks and Rec, the first and foremost thing that we need to do is promote natives, and thereby the step one is removing invasives. So every 6 months, we had a commitment to Parks and Rec to remove invasives. Well, that was a volunteer group and is a volunteer group. And I just want to make sure that funding is available to help everybody, help us.
Yes.
Help the
And that
environment.
has actually come up a lot, so thank you for that. We have an email campaign from Fallon Park, which is another group that is also advocating for invasive species. I will let you know, in last year, we did allocate $500,000 to our invasive species. It's its own part of Parks and Rec, but there's only one person involved in this. Everything else is volunteer based, so that 500,000, part of that goes to paying for professionals to come in and help with invasive species, but that's over a 2-year period, as I just got that update. So for the next year, until I think the beginning of 2027, through 2026, you've got $500,000 allocated, of which only 186,000 have been spent so far. So there is still a budget to do things. Please request for that information. I'm more than happy to help you understand what is being done. Is it enough? No, because we don't have employees that remove that. We rely on partnerships with both the private industry and with volunteers to help do that. But you're right. Our entire, if you look across the city, it is a huge problem. And for those, we have Fallon Park advocating for more funding. I will say straight off the bat, since the money has not been spent in that 500,000, I'm not sure that that's something that's gonna go over the line this year, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't advocate for it. You should most definitely contact we're here, your city councilors, let us know, we're hearing this, and I know that Mayor Pro Tem Ford has placed Councilor Harrison in charge of really learning more about this, and she is part of Growth and Natural Resources. And are you on that too?
No,
Okay, go ahead.
but
I will not weigh in, but as former Parks Commissioner that had to manage 30,000 acres of parkland, I can't say you remove invasive, you manage it because it just keeps recurring again and again and again. And so you have to be strategic on where you want to target it. You know, we hired goats and put them in areas to rip it down, but they seem to eat up everything. So I just want to make sure as we go into this, we go in fully knowledgeable that you can't eradicate invasives because they're just overwhelming. You clean it one year, it's back the next season. You clean it again, it's back again. So I just want to make sure as we do this, if there are some places we could take a more deeper approach. So I certainly am not on these committees, but I had to deal with an entire city of invasive species. We focus on certain areas where we knew it can make an impact using volunteers, but we were there every time. We're right back again, the same place we just left the last year. So just be aware, you do want to plant more natives, but invasives most likely start choking out the natives. And so it's just this ongoing battle. Just want to make sure that we can eradicate it.
And
It's
therefore.
managing it, and I think you have to be strategic
Right.
on a place like our natural areas, we said just let it go. But places in our parks or woodland areas within our parks, that's where we felt more population were there. And so I certainly will lend my expertise, but I'm not on that committee.
Well, and therefore I find it scary that there's money left on the table in that.
Well, remember, it was for
budget.
2 years, so I
Yeah.
hesitate to make it sound like it was left on the table, because this was for 2 years, so they can't spend all 500,000 in the first year, then you leave stuff. So I don't wanna frame it that way, I'd much rather say we need to learn what their plan is specifically, so you know what their outcome is, and if there are disagreements there, that's fine, but we need to understand better before we say whether it's.
Right, and if that was getting shared with Parks and Recreation so that they could fund the volunteer initiative. I don't know, but yeah, it's a concern.
Right, and so those are great concerns and definitely highlight them. That one's really hard because then you go to Home Depot or Lowe's and they're selling invasive species, which your regular person like me who goes in, I don't know the difference. And so there's this constant battle. We can fight all of it, but if we still have private industry selling these invasives, there's only so much we can do and how much resources we can allocate, but we can definitely get some more information for you on that. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Louis.
Quite often at city council meetings, we see discretionary money brought up and given to various causes. The CACs, basically, I think are talking about a cash fund through the course of the year for all the CACs based on the pass of just $21,000. And we feel like that the community engagement is one of the most important things that should be going on with the leadership of our city.
Okay, so I'm gonna touch on a few of those. So the discretionary funds, I will speak to what I think you're referencing, which is contingency funds, which we do give out. Remember that every organization that we give contingency funds, or money that council allocates, goes to an organization that can accept those funds. CACs does not have a receiving entity. They do not have a treasurer. They do not have a bank account. Those are things that are required for us to partner and hand funds over. So that's still a big problem as to why CACs can't receive funding, because I don't have the funding mechanism there.
How did we operate that previously?
Because the city was in charge of your organization. When CAC said we still want to be autonomous, we want to have that pull away, you lose the ability to get that direct funding. That is all orchestrated by the city. This is not. And so there are rules, and those rules are you need to have the ability to accept funds. Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying. We should find ways to accomplish what we need to do in this city to represent the people.
And those are
a lot
two
of money
different.
right now is going in engagement, but we're not. And most of it is very good, but there's still things that we could be doing that would do a lot more help for very little money.
Definitely, and I don't disagree with that. I want you to hold us accountable, but I'm gonna do the same for CACs. And at this moment, I need to understand what the structure is when you choose not to be part of the city in the engagement network where you would have the ability to do that.
We probably did that more because we found this, we weren't getting any cooperation out of the city. That's what the CACs.
I'm here now.
CACs have viewed that. We appreciate very much the motion you put through a year ago. But we have not seen the city of Raleigh strongly follow through on that.
And I will turn it back to your leadership structure, which is Robert Rice, Mark Turner, and Dr. Ulysses Lane have been working. It has not been the city that has slowed things down. This has been because we've asked questions of CACs that need answers. And that is not solely the city that's held up.
We'll
These are
take that.
answers that didn't come through from leadership of the CACs. We are working on that now. It is ongoing, and your leadership is very happy with us. They were at that moment. They were at that motion in September and spoke to it. So again, when we have difference of opinion, I need you guys to work that out in CACs so that it goes up and your chair can speak to those concerns, because he's not right now.
We have had many meetings in the last year, and we have, as Larry mentioned, a set of things to be discussed. It's ready to be presented to the city. We thought it was gonna be presented a month.
We need to see it at the
We're talking
table.
about a few days now.
We have one. The conversation on the CAC side, I'm gonna hold you guys accountable to that as well, has got to be streamlined, and that's what we're trying to do. Your leadership teams are very happy with us. And so these are internal discussions, and guys, community engagement is hard. This is nothing that's easy, all right? Our community engagement department is going through this. This is the growing pains of CACs. But right now, getting this liaison role is going to help, but it is not going to solve it in 2 months, in 6 months. This is a long-term goal that we are still working towards. So I just want to be as clear as possible as to what the expectation levels for CACs moving forward are.
Okay, message received, message heard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
So
sorry.
I'm
just
still
a
optimistic.
quick question, is the RCAC, how do you find them?
So that is Robert Rice, who you've been.
What is there a website, is there a?
That is the
Yeah.
CAC's own entity. They have not created a website. So that is them. That is not the city's responsibility to do
Okay.
at this moment. If the request comes from the CAC's motions and their
It's on-
surveys
it's
that
on our
say,
list.
I would like to do this, and this is what rises to the top, then we might be able to. Now I can go to the staff and say, how can we help and create this? But it doesn't exist right now because we are two separate entities.
It's on the list. I want to thank you, Kristen. I want to give Mitchell a chance. Mitchell, I know that last time everybody saw you, you were a candidate running for office. And first of all, thank you for being here tonight. I expect to see you on a regular basis, hopefully. Try to give you a lot of notice so you can get your calendar sorted out. But I am curious about your first impressions. Now it's been 2 months with council. What you've seen, what you've learned, what you'd like to see. Just a couple minutes to.
Well, I'm still in the observation mode. It's been about 2 months. My biggest challenge is that throughout my career, I've been an appointed official running large agencies from 10,000 to 500, and now I'm a team of 8. And so for me, when I hear you present and being a consultant, and being a commissioner and being a director, the hardest thing for me is a transition from being in charge to now being a team of 8. So that to me, I think is the biggest transition. Right now, it's just onboarding. There's a lot I'm learning about the city processes. We just had a retreat, and I will share with you some of the top line from that retreat. But to me, it's just onboarding. I'm learning different people have different expectations of what a council member is. Many believe us as constituent services, so my inbox is flooded with everything from, invasive species to someone smoking marijuana upstairs to the smell cigarettes, please intervene. And so I'm just trying to navigate with staff. And then there were some to all council members and then some to individual council members. I want to be responsive, but that is just overwhelming as you're being onboarded, understanding the packet, understanding the process. So for me, I'm just observing how everything works. I used to be on the other side of the table. If those of you who don't know, I was a planning director here in Raleigh and chief planning officer overseeing about 7 different offices and departments. So that's, for me, is my biggest transition. What I'm finding out is that this is a very competent, very intelligent staff, well-meaning, well-caring. Everybody wants to do their best job. It's always been a great city to live in. And so for me, I've been impressed, but the onboarding is going to take some time. It is supposed to be a part-time job, but I think we all know so I have now 2 full-time jobs, trying to strike that balance, being responsive to the concerns that I hear. And so, yes, I'm going around as people calling to go meet with neighbors like I'm doing tomorrow, but I'm impressed. I'm also impressed with my colleagues. I'll share with you a little bit about our retreat. We had a retreat Friday and Saturday, and for me, it was our chance to kind of establish a relationship with our colleagues. We all agreed that we may have different points of view, we want to work together. And I really enjoyed those 2 days, getting to work with my colleagues, we're gonna disagree on things, we wanna do it in a collaborative way. And so I don't know what the past council was like, but I enjoy the tone. I've already had great meetings with Councilmember Jones, some side conversations. I believe we had great chemistry, we may not agree on everything, but at least we can talk it out. And so I think for me, that is quite positive. In terms of what happened at the retreat, it was a first introduction. And again, I'm in the heavy duty observation mode. We talked about the strategic plan, the last one, and setting the stage for the next one. Staff kind of took everything from our campaign website and said, here are priorities. And so they kind of wanted to see where there's commonality. And so we had that one exercise where the strategic plan had been, how staff met it, and then setting the stage for what's next. We had a huge conversation about public comment. I didn't know all the ins and outs. There was a big conversation about should people use images and videos. Some of them, for some people, are uncomfortable, and we talked about, there was a huge restructuring, what day should it be, what schedule, but what about the content? So staff has some work to do to follow up, because some people found some of the imagery objectionable, but we want to be responsive, and some people feel we have certain rights to share what they want to share, so staff's going to kind of parse through that. So the public comments, both the time and the content, was a big conversation. We got an update on legislative priorities, just kind of the do's and don'ts, recognize the environment that we're in, an overview of the budget financial outlook, no decisions, just kind of getting a deep dive for some of us that are new about how both revenue and expenses come in. And then the next day, because I'm a big believer in big ideas, I felt what was missing the prior day was a conversation about big ideas. So we started the day, it wasn't planned, talking about some of the big ideas. And so we had that for at least about 30 minutes. Deep conversation about affordable housing and zoning. There was a video, different points of view, recognizing this is the top priority for all the citizens here in Raleigh. So we had a deep conversation about affordable housing, what was done, what needs to be done going forward. Huge conversation about annexation. We're now seeing pressure, not just within our boundaries, but outside. And how do we handle that going forward? We don't want to extend the utilities. There are some financial implications. Deep conversation about how we're going to grow, annexation, particularly outside of our boundaries. And so that was a big conversation. The one most relevant to you, the boards and commissions. It was noted to us that we had well over 30, and some of them were developed back in the 1970s. We're seeing some that can't be quorum, and we're seeing those that have a lot of vacancies. And so we asked staff to take a look to find out, do we do an audit to find out which ones are relevant, which ones have kind of fulfilled their purpose? Can we collapse them together? We don't know. There are certain ones that you cannot touch by statute or by charter, but there are others that are more advisory. And so staff's gonna take a deep look on what do we do with all these boards and commissions. There are quite a few. And then after that, we just had a little bit of fun after it. But we did have kind of an opening exercise about how we all wanted to work together. And again, you, Councilmember Jones, maybe you want to get up and reflect, but I really enjoy the congeniality of all of us as we do have to work together, make tough decisions. But I enjoyed the retreat. I wanted to stay till 4, we ended early, but that's kind of the take. So for me, I'm just really in the learning process and trying to switch hats from going from staff to now an elected official. And so I'm still in the learning mode. So I guess as months go by, I can kind of share with you my people's perspective. So unless there are any questions, and I did make a point about acronyms, which you wanted to comment on. Since I do public facilitation, I tell my staff and everyone I work with, using acronyms is not allowed. You spell out the full word, you say it, because you never know who in a room don't know what it means. And that way they feel as if they just don't feel like they're part of the conversation. So you heard that and I felt bad. I think Tiesha, yeah. Were you the one who answered one of those words?
At the first council.
Naturally occurring affordable.
Oh, yeah.
That was, Tiesha, it was you. I felt so bad. Yeah, because coming into government, there are so many acronyms and I'm just writing them all down, leaning over to Councilmember Jones. What is this one?
You need a book of acronyms.
Yes.
Mitchell also mentioned earlier tonight about orienting the audience at various presentations, projects and stuff, to the maps that we use, because a lot of times we do not even find street names mentioned or key features in the area, certain buildings and so forth in those areas, and I think we will follow through on that. And I would like to compliment the council we have right now. We have significantly improved cohesion among the council members now than the council and leadership we had in the previous 2 or 3 years there. And so we appreciate that. I watched the community engagement part of both days of the retreat, and a lot of things were discussed there. But I came away that there was a big drive put on in that and documentation given for having less public engagement there, predominantly with the city council members. I think it was being, put in other places, but you folks had numbers in these studies all over the country, and particularly in North Carolina, about the amount of time that was spent by different cities in doing public engagement and so forth. And then they're talking about restricting. As a matter of fact, we were shown as having probably the most.
Oh, you're talking about public comments.
Public comment.
Yes, it was about the public comment, not engagement. It was about the public comment, yes.
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 And that, they were displaying, showing how others had come to the conclusion that you should not be spending that much time on comments. And there was talk there about trimming down from 3 times a month for the public comments to 1. There were some good comments made, very constructive comments made about what time of day you did this, depending on what people's personal lives were like, and so forth. But there was mention at the end of that, all this conversation of getting down to spending, I'm trying to remember what it was.
I think it was down to 2.
15 or 30 minutes, and no responses, even though sponsors can be allowed by the council. And we appreciate that anytime they speak up, because we would like to hear more. By the same token, it's often not best for them just to leap out and say something then to the study.
Yeah, right.
Issue.
Yeah, the issue was that during the public comment period, council cannot respond. I mean, we're there just to listen. But occasionally a council member may say something and they felt, okay, you just set a precedent. I think the way we conclude is that we prefer if staff responds, because it's not a dialogue. Someone has their 1 minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, they make a statement, and sometimes they're looking at us for a response. There was one woman that asked a lot of questions about the dog park. And when she was concluded, all of us wanted to say something. We just stood like saying, we cannot respond. Someone kind of indirectly did, and so it's really setting better expectations. They say it's on the form when they fill it out, but we want to do a better job. So when someone comes in, you're just there making a statement. You will not get a response from council, but we're trying to see whether staff can say something so the person just doesn't look awkward. Taking the time to come to a public meeting to say something. The other one is looking at all the other jurisdictions to find out who allows public, they all have to. How many opportunities for public comment are allowed? How long do they speak? So we're kind of on the, I wouldn't say extreme side, on the more liberal side. And so they're gonna take a look to see if we can move somewhere toward the middle. So that's what you had watched. I don't think it's limiting, but I think it was just looking at what's being done across the state and where does Raleigh, or where should Raleigh fit in that spectrum?
It's good research you did. I will note one other thing that astounded me was the concept of only allowing 10 people to speak at each opportunity, which was going to only be once a month.
Okay, so we limit it by time, not by number.
One quick comment on it, and I happen to be one of the probably half a dozen people that was there from the public for the retreat. There weren't many people from the public. But public comment is a very controversial subject. At the present time, most people, whether they give comments or don't give comments, don't think the council pays attention to them. One of the reasons that they don't think council pays attention to them is because council does not respond to them. Sometimes something will go off the staff for a follow-up for a particular individual, but overall, it's less and less people are speaking for public comment because they just feel they're wasting their time. And they've taken the time either off work or leaving their family behind to come down to speak. I go back to the old days where we didn't even have to sign up to speak in public. You could just raise your hand, speak, and be heard. And those days have to return. There is nothing, I've checked, there's nothing that will stop the council from responding. I understand about long conversations, but you can respond. There is no code of conduct that stops you from responding. That's the false thing. So that's my message. I thought it sent a bad note for people who were already dismissing public comment and its effect to talk in public about reducing public comment even further. And my comment is, look to Cary, they do it every meeting, they do it effectively.
Okay.
I just want to add in my perspective on the retreat. I had an amazing time. I'll say that in the three, this is my third retreat. We did two, so maybe my fourth retreat, but this was the most collaborative and I enjoyed the conversation. It wasn't always roses. It wasn't always consensus. Public comment was one of those. I was more on the more liberal side that says, we just changed this a year ago. What we have now, which is the second Tuesday being fully dedicated to public comment, and then the third Tuesday having an hour dedicated to it, we just changed that less than a year ago. And we have had no one abuse it. We have not even been there for maybe an hour for public comment. So we have allotted 3 hours that first meeting, which we never even get to half of it. So what I asked from staff during the retreat was, give me the data. Show me over the last year how many meetings went past 3 hours, because I promise you it's 0. And so if that's true, then why are we changing it now? What is the purpose of changing it again when it seems to be working just the way it is? Second Tuesday, we only allow an hour total. And what you were referencing was Charlotte. Charlotte's meeting statute said that they do it once a month. They allot 30 minutes and they only cap it at 15 speakers. So that's what he was referencing.
Yeah.
And that I have serious hesitations, in which I and 2 other councilors also posed those questions. Nothing was decided. There was nothing it's gonna come back and they're gonna come back for more information. So this is not fear mongering by any means, but there are 3 of us who are like, I'd rather not mess a good thing up. I feel like we've got it. So that's something for you guys to decide. The other conversation that I so appreciated was about growth and annexation, because the annexation conversation, we had water, solid waste, fire, police,
Utilities.
Transportation, all up there explaining how annexation and bringing in these big sprawling communities is a drain on how we pay taxes. You know, they're paying taxes that are not equating to the service that we need to render. And so that's the conversation that's really important as we talk about growth, because that's what leads to the high density. We're trying to make sure that we get the biggest bang for our buck and how we can get more taxes in without the sprawl and having to connect services so far out. So if you have a moment, please watch that conversation. It was probably my favorite conversation that we had, because you're hearing directly from the teams who were there. And it's always, and I say this term, it's sexy to listen to fire and police, and you want to make sure that they have what they need 100%. They're in emergency situations. So that's not going to happen to your day-to-day person all the time. The services that you see every day are your solid waste. Your solid waste, when we add 8,000 people to their roster, it's not 8,000 people because they provide 3 services. They have yard waste, recycling, and solid waste, or solid trash, recycle, and yard waste. That's now 24,000 new touch points that we have to add, and we're not adding staff to them. So those are the most critical ones that we don't talk about in growth. We talk about it's going up high, or I don't want 40 stories and all that. And these are the tough conversations. This is a great place to have that, because we're gonna get more money, more tax base if we go up, but there are struggles to that as well. So please watch that clip of the conversation, because I thought it was very useful and my favorite part. So just wanted to add that.
Was there anything else?
Appreciate you folks coming out and speaking.
Next time I will leave you more time. I know I cut you a little short for time. I want to get to Steve real quick. Steve is now on the Parks and Recreation Board, and I want to know if you're still wearing your old hat.
I do get to wear 2 hats, so.
Oh my goodness.
And then, like my other gig where I do some writing and stuff, but, so I'm still a community connector, which means I get to go to first neighborhood meetings within District A and sort of help inform people in terms of how the zoning process works. And then I also collect it and send it back to the city staff, the planning staff. It has been a dearth of activity in District A. So there's like, nothing has been going on for a while. But right now, the rezoning on Litchford Road, 7015 and 7019, goes to the planning commission tomorrow. Actually, they're requesting to go from R4 to R6 to build some townhomes, 6 to 8 townhomes on what is currently, single residential property. 8415 Honeycutt Road, which I did go to, but actually is now moved to an ETJ. It's an extraterritorial jurisdiction, not really District A. That goes to the Planning Commission on the 25th of February. And it's going from R1 to R6. It's a very similar type thing. Some community concerns, not overwhelming. It'll be interesting to see what they brought forward, because it's really up to the community to reach out to the Planning Commission and staff.
Can I ask a quick question about that one? Going from R1, I'm not sure if you have, does that mean it's on a watershed since it's R1?
There are some watershed issues there. It was R1, but also because it was larger, there were larger plots, I think, so.
And it must be up R6.
Hmm?
So it's going from 1 to 6, what is 6?
What it means is you can basically put, as opposed to one, I forget, with one, it's fairly large.
1 acre.
One
Yeah,
acre.
1 acre.
1 acre.
As opposed to R2, which is most of what we're in.
No,
Where are-
mostly it's here is R4, R6.
Or, I'm sorry, R4.
It's easy, when you have the 4, it's 1 unit to the acre, R2, 2 units to the acre, 4 is 4 units to the acre.
It used to be that way.
Well,
So,
with the,
but,
generally, except, yes, missing middle allows.
but anyway, I was appointed to Park Recreation Greenway Advisory Board. It had, thank you. So my first meeting was actually in January. Nothing impacting us directly here, but in terms of what came up, we heard a review of the pedestrian passage concept plan. Really pretty cool idea about making adjustments to make parts of Raleigh more pedestrian friendly.
Yeah.
So you can actually look that up, Google that, and it's some pretty cool stuff going on there. The Top Green Community Center has been proposed for renaming, and that is going to be voted on in February. We'll be voting on that in February. We had an overview of user fees. Parks and Rec did increase some user fees. The way it works, basically, it's like a pyramid type thing, okay? So at the very bottom, it's free, a free thing you can get from Park and Rec. At the very top, you pay for the entirety of what you're participating in. Generally speaking, if it's a broad benefit to the community, it's free and a lot of participation, okay? At the very top, it's something that benefits an individual. So let's say certain classes and things like that, where you're just going and you're solely benefiting from it. That's where you sort of pay 100% of whatever the cost may be. But the interesting part is Park and Rec had a fiscal year 23 cost recovery rate of 24.7. So that means what people paid for the services, it came out to 24.7% of the cost of providing those services. That is actually above the national average slightly of 24.6, so that's pretty cool. Youth camps prices went up. After school camps are now $100, and that's part of the pyramid scale. So what they're gonna be doing is every year, they're gonna take a look at their fee base and make sure it's staying consistent. If anybody knows Carolina Pines Park, they've actually put in a grant application for $400,000 that they would receive and to upgrade the playground facility, make it more accessible. If they get the grant, there's a requirement for a match from the city of $100,000. And so the board did vote to authorize that grant of 100 from the city to match if they get the $400,000 grant. Schematic design was submitted and approved for Lake Lynn West Loop. So if you've been over there to Lake Lynn, that West Loop, I haven't been out there in a while. I went out there, took my dog, and she agreed that needs work. So, that is funded through the 2022 bond. So this is just that, hey, here's the plan. And finally, the Walnut Creek Trail Bridge, you probably saw in the news, that was damaged badly by fire, actually Christmas Eve. Unfortunately, the reconstruction requires some special lumber in terms of the way it needs to be rebuilt and everything like that. So unfortunately, that is probably gonna be closed for about 3 to 4 months, and that's down to Walnut Creek Trail, which means and there's no way around it, unfortunately. So 3 to 4 months, that'll be closed, and hopefully we'll have more updates on it.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Quick and easy. And real quickly, I don't know if you've all met Kevin DeHunt from before. He's our, as I said, our new Linda, but it's great. He's local. I met him during the week, helped me out. And he's
on
for the TV, yeah. Perfect.
It's just all about trying to enhance the experience for the whole park, right? And, yeah, so I'm in specialized recreation and inclusion services. I won't say SRIS as we're often known by. So we have, we're just taking over some facility management operations. And so it's a totally new hat for me. I'm a licensed recreational therapist working in mental health by trade. So this is kind of uncharted territory for me, but I'm excited to connect with our community members and just kind of breathe more life into this park, into this neighborhood center. And like I said, just try to enhance it for everybody. So happy to be here.
And for everybody's benefit, real quick, the dam is gonna get, well, the project engineer is gonna start sometime this year. They're finally gonna spend the money they keep putting off that they've had. And there will be a public exhibition of the work that they're going to do on the dam at the end of February. And they will be at our CAC meeting at the end of February. So you'll get a first-hand presentation. It'll be the week before the actual public presentation in the park. Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Fancy.
And thank you for being patient with us tonight. Sorry we ran over a little bit, but thanks for attending.
Yeah, we'll just go around, just go over.